Thunder Grunt.
Hey guys,
Bob.
how are you?
I'm great, man.
Good, because I'm going to address...
How are you?
I'm fine. I'm going to address the listeners right now and say, welcome to Writers Blockbusters. This is a podcast where we treat the final edit of a movie like the script.
Yes.
And I want you guys to go around and introduce yourselves.
I am Jimmy George. I am a screenwriter and a full-time script consultant, and my Twitter handle is @JimmyRGeorge.
I am Jamie Nash. That's a good idea with the Twitter handle.
Yes.
I am Jamie Nash, screenwriter, sometimes novelist. Got a book out right now called Nomad Sci-Fi on Amazon. You can find me at Jamie_Nash.
And I'm at Thundergrunt Bob, and I'm a filmmaker or something. They just hate saying what you are.
I do.
Anyway, today we're going to talk about a movie that we're going to talk about It Chapter 2, and we do have an It Chapter 1. It's not called that. We have an It episode. So if anyone's listening to this, you might want to go back and check that one out first. It's not going to be completely necessary, but it'll help.
We're going to do our best not to repeat ourselves.
We're going to try. We're going to try.
Talked about on that episode.
So no use of the word Pennywise.
Right.
Yeah, not allowed to say his name.
Right. But first, Jimmy, just talk for 1 minute about what happened to you.
Okay, I tried to watch this movie. I tried to go see this movie, and 5 people were sitting behind me as a group. And they just
Losers Club.
The Losers Club.
Right.
They wouldn't shut the fuck up. And I was really mad, and I didn't say anything. I just left. But when I tried to get my money back, the people who worked at the theater insisted on going in there and kind of reprimanding those people. Like, they were pumped. They were like, let's do this. Yeah. And I was like,
You mean
no.
the employees
The
of
employees at the theater.
Okay.
I was like, I just need to get my money back because there's 5 people in there talking, and they never stopped talking from the time the movie started. And by a half an hour in, I just couldn't take it anymore.
Sure, you can.
And there were like 40 people in the theater, so it wasn't like it was just me and them. You know what I mean? Like, I was ruining their good time. They were ruining. Anyway, please don't do that.
I mean, you literally left. That's
I left.
How bad it was.
I was so mad.
Okay.
I mean, what can you do? Like, I couldn't even hear the dialogue, like, because all I could hear was their dialogue.
Right.
So, yeah.
That sucks, man.
Yeah, not that our listeners are those types of rude people, but
I'm hoping we're talking to the people that would be mad at those people, but you never can tell
I
who's
was
listening, right?
Fucking pissed.
So yeah, they were your own losers club, as
yeah,
Jamie
they
said.
were my
So we're gonna talk about It Chapter 2, and I want to know who wrote this shit, Jamie.
Gary.
Gary
Do you happen to know a human who wrote this shit?
Gary Dauberman. Yeah, well, as much
holy
as
shit.
we say it, like, it's not like I've talked to the guy in 10 years. It's starting to seem a little creepy.
He's my best
He's
bud.
my best friend. I taught him everything.
One day he'll understand.
He said, "What should I write next?" And I said, "It." No, no. So Gary Dauberman, you can go back to the original episode to know about my relationship with Gary Dauberman.
Right.
That's our way to get.
It was a
more
revelation to
views.
Bob and I.
A revolution.
I mean, it was cool, man. The first movie was like a phenomenon.
Yeah.
And you were like, "Yeah, I know the guy." We're like,
Click.
"What?"
Yeah, I used to go meet with him in White Marsh.
Clickbait. Now, if you look at the interviews, there is some interesting intrigue to the whole Gary Dauberman wrote the screenplay. Apparently, there was another guy that came on later, Jason. This is a scary name to say. Is it Fuchs? Or is it something Fuchs?
F-U-C-H. We'll let the listeners decide.
Yeah.
I think Fuchs.
This is a family-friendly podcast, so we'll say Jason.
I just said the
cuss
F-bomb like
a lot.
3
No, I'm
times.
just- I'm joking.
Yeah,
with
no,
that,
I
but
cuss often.
That'd be
so.
funny if we had to bleep his last name. You know? So anyway,
It's Fuchs. I think
It's
Fuchs
Fuchs.
is right.
Okay.
yeah, Fuchs is what I'm
Yeah.
going to go with. Otherwise, I really feel sorry for him in grade school.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
It kind of seems cool now though. Jason Fox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stage name.
Right. Stay right.
Yeah, so yeah, the funny thing is, he actually appeared as Richie's manager in the movie too. He had a role. He does some
okay.
acting.
Oh, okay.
The guy who comes out when Richie's vomiting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
That's him.
That's funny. Okay.
So the reason I bring that up just super quick is so Gary Dauberman wrote the first one after another name that we might have to bleep out. What's the guy, True Detective? Corey Fukuyama. Oh, is that what it is?
I don't know.
Carrie. Oh,
I can never
Jesus.
pronounce it. I didn't even look it up this time.
Sorry, Carrie.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He does a lot of work too.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
So he wrote an original draft, and then Gary Dauberman came in after. He left and wasn't going to direct it. Gary Dauberman finished it up, and the movie was made. That's it, chapter 1. So fast forward to chapter 2. Gary wrote the first draft, with the help of the director, the guidance, I should say.
The
not the help.
guidance, yeah.
And the producer is his sister, I think.
I don't know.
I think it's his sister. I think it's the director's sister. They're partners. They're creative partners. He wrote it, but then he went off to make the recent Annabelle movie. He directed it, his directing debut.
Wow.
Gary Dauberman, the guy I know.
That did fairly okay, didn't it?
I think it did okay. I don't
Okay.
think it for that
Is that
universe.
Annabelle Comes Home?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
critically it did really well. I think box office it was a little down. There were two, like La Llorona came out and that. I think they were both just a little down for that universe. But again, I think it made enough money to be a hit. So he went off to make that movie. So Jason came in and he did apparent rewrites to the movie, uncredited. But according to the Machetes, he was on. Is that how you pronounce their name? Or is it,
I think
Not
it's
yet. Yeah.
God,
Always with the names. Always with the names on the show.
I always said Muschietti.
I was picturing Danny Trio on set all of a sudden.
Muschietti.
And then I was like, that's a great idea for a movie. Like, have his whole family, the Machetes. So I got a pitch I got to do after this, the Danny Trio.
Dude, Machete versus
Machetes.
Pennywise. That's
I
a
think
movie.
He's saying his name wrong
He
too.
is.
Trejo.
What?
Trejo. Yeah, what did you say?
I said
Trio.
Trio.
Yeah, he didn't say Trejo. He said
No, I
Trejo.
didn't say Trey.
Oh, okay.
No,
Sorry, Jamie.
no, I said Trey with an H. I know enough.
We need an entire episode
know
of Jamie
Espanol.
pronouncing names.
Jamie, just read these cards.
Yeah,
Read
exactly.
these lists of names, please.
Could they phonetically spell these names? Where are my William Goldmans? So he was on set with the directors, and he apparently they said they were rewriting pages every day and changing things and all this other stuff. However, I would say that to get a credit via WGA arbitration, he would only have to write what's considered 33% on an adaptation. So whatever he did, it didn't live up to the 33% standard. So as much as they might say things are being rewritten every day,
It's got to have
maybe.
stayed close to what it was.
Yeah, otherwise he'd have a credit.
Okay.
So,
So you're not saying it's like completely unfair or anything like that? It's not, or standard practice?
well, standard practice. So when it goes to WGA arbitrations, the WGA decides these credits. So Writers Guild of America, and after a project, they decide the credits. Not always like you could agree to. I guess I don't know if this kind of stuff happens, but I guess they could agree just not to take a credit. But I don't think that's Writers Guild kosher. Like I don't think that you'd ever be allowed to do
It's
that.
bad form.
It would be really bad. Like nobody would ever admit to that if that happened. I don't really know that. I'm not saying that happened here. So the rule is on a regular project, you'd have to do 50%. So if it wasn't an adaptation, you'd have to do a 50% rewrite. So you'd have to rewrite practically half of it.
Damn, before you get a credit?
Before you get a credit. So I've been in that world before. And that
I think
is
Guardians had a kind of similar thing going on with Gunn, right?
Gunn wanted her off because he said that
He wrote way more than 50%.
she didn't write 50% of the last. Yes.
Right.
So that's kind of what happened there. So, but if you're doing an adaptation, well, actually that was an adaptation. So it would have been
Yeah.
33% is
Right.
all she had to do. But he basically said she didn't do 33%. So in this case, in adaptation, 33% is all you have to do. Apparently, Jason didn't come to the level that that you had to get to. So, it probably wasn't that extensive.
Okay.
Still, they publicly admitted he was on set helping.
And they said that they're changing things day to day.
Day to day,
which is
every
like-
day, new page
I
every
mean,
day.
that's understandable, but it sounds pretty dramatic. Yeah.
I honestly, as a writer, now I work in independent film. I like to rewrite up to the day of because I get ideas. I love iteration. I
mean,
understand
editing
planning.
is rewriting.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Plus, you get into
yeah.
the situation and compromises are made on the spot because of like where you are, what's happening. You have to change
now
things.
he probably this movie has everything it needed. Probably
That's true.
budget-wise, though,
That's
so.
true.
I honestly think the more iterations you do of anything, the better it's going to be. So do it up to the last
Yeah.
minute. If you have a better idea, keep going with it.
Unless you like got into it because you were like, this script is so perfect.
Well, there is a part that you can lose sight of what's
can,
good.
yeah.
The jokes aren't funny anymore.
There's that
You
Harold
start-
Ramis quote. I've been thinking about it ever since we talked about it on Good Boys, where he goes into a movie like shooting, saying, "This is the worst the movie could ever be. What's on the page here?
Right.
Anything more is better than." There's the
Right.
opportunity. The script is the worst the movie could ever be. Is what
Gotcha.
he said. I like that.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Though I think a lot of times the battle in the independent world, this is a different podcast, is just breaking even with the script you have on the page.
Just making
just
what
trying
you,
to get
what
there.
you
Yeah.
wrote.
Just trying to
Oh,
get there,
God,
right?
Yeah. I mean,
Usually
we've
it's-
dealt with that.
usually
every
it's like-
fucking
Right.
day.
You're lucky to get within 20% of what's
Yeah.
on the page, let alone
Nothing
make it
I've
better.
ever made has
Yes.
lived up to how it looked in my mind.
Yeah,
So
not
yeah,
at all.
yeah.
Because that's my thing. I always call it breaking even with the script. If I can
Right.
just break even.
Breaking Bad.
Yeah, exactly. So It Chapter 2 is currently sitting at $178 million at the it's really
Domestic?
179 domestic.
Mm.
And foreign it's 206 million. So already, and this
What's
is
the
still
budget?
pretty early for a worldwide take of 385. I don't know what the budget is. It felt very expensive compared to the first
Yeah.
one. It
Well,
felt like,
I mean, the first one was such a
Well,
behemoth.
yeah,
Yeah.
when you make
hit.
$500 million, then you say, well, we want our next one to be 100 because
Right.
we're going to make them 400.
Right.
So
Yeah.
don't try to make us make it for 40 million.
Right.
It felt more like $100 million movie.
It felt bigger than the
Then
other
the
one.
last one
yeah.
felt more like a 40 or a 60 or
Yeah.
something. This one felt like 120, 100. It felt expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just my gut. And the
Yeah.
cast and all the other
Cast,
stuff.
right? Yeah.
Because you get those kids cheap, but you don't get Jessica
Yeah.
Chastain and Bill Hader, and they have agents, and they make a lot of
I
money.
mean,
back.
James McAvoy.
Yeah.
James McAvoy.
It's like fucking Magneto, not Magneto. Sorry, Professor X in a
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Before we get into the outline and our points, I think on this one, let's all say what we think of the movie first, so
Yeah.
everyone knows where we're coming from.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Go ahead, Bob.
Oh, I mean, I'll go last. You guys go
Okay.
first.
I am not crazy about the script.
Yeah.
And I really like the performances. I like the music. I like the effects. I like the aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some magic in there, here and there.
Yeah.
I felt some magic, but I was pretty bored in general, like Jamie was.
Mhm.
You know,
Oh,
I'm
give
sorry.
away- Give away
Shit,
Jamie's
shit.
fucking.
I love the movie. I thought every minute was great.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, I was generally disengaged from the movie. So for me, anytime you're disengaged when it has a long running time, it just makes it worse, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because then you're there for
And it's
longer.
3 hours.
It's 3 hours.
right? Yeah.
And I was generally disappointed because I was kind of excited going in to see how they're. And we said this in the last. This is one thing I will repeat. The last podcast, I was really just I was kind of sitting there playing Monday morning quarterback. I thought the second chapter was going to be really the hard adaptation, the really hard thing to
I think
pull
you're
off.
right.
Yeah, I thought the first one could be standalone. You didn't really have to have the second one. You could have just finished off Pennywise and they grow up and they live happily ever after. The second one, because of the way
that is not the book. Though.
that's not the book.
Yeah, that's
but
not
I
the
think
book.
you could have done that.
Yeah.
But also, what's not the book is to separate it into two chronological parts,
Right.
like it was. So the book is not to do the past first and then the future second. I think
they were trying. I think they were trying to also do something different than had been done with the TV movie.
I think the
Right? I mean, because that
Mhm.
starts with the adults.
Right. Yeah.
no, I think
No, it does. It
the
starts with
same.
adults getting their phone calls. That's how the.
Oh, well, but then it flashes back to
Yeah,
the
it's all
kids.
flashbacks and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
But
yeah.
but still, it doesn't do it the way the book does it, which is interchanging
no,
chapters.
no.
which is, I think, the reason for me, we'll get into this, the adult side works. And I think just by mere separation of that, you have to re-crack the engine of how the story works. So you can have the same incidents, but you need the same urgency and drive and POV and all that stuff. So I think I'm going to basically explore why the things that aren't working for me screenwriting wise, why I didn't engage as much. But anyway, that's kind of a hint at it.
Yeah. And so when I first saw it, which was 3-4 weeks ago, a month now almost, when I first saw it, I really liked it way more than I think most people that I know liked it. I watched it yesterday for this podcast because I didn't want to do, how we do like a podcast. It's like, I saw it 3 weeks ago. I kind of remember.
That's what I'm doing.
So this time, actually, when
Sorry, Jamie.
Yeah, that's fine. So this time, like, I actually was in a theater with no one. It was just me and like 2 other people. And like the first time I saw it, there was talking and phones and everything. So this time, I actually got to say I loved it. Now, that said, I connected with it for a bunch of different reasons that we'll get into. That said, I don't disagree with you guys. So like, I feel different about it. I don't disagree that it's got problems with the script.
Gotcha.
But I think that like the execution of what is there is amazing.
Gotcha.
To me.
Yeah, I understand.
You know what you're saying?
Yeah.
I'm saying? So
yeah.
I'm totally on board with like the litany of problems that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
I just really, this movie I actually kind of teared up on the second time.
That's awesome.
I
man.
actually
I'm glad
teared
you
up.
did.
I know, it really
That's
kind of
what you want.
It moved me in a way I didn't expect this when I really got a chance to dig in on that second watch.
Okay.
So there.
Yeah,
that's
and
where
I
I'm
usually
sitting.
find my place of truly how I feel about a movie when I see it again.
Right.
So,
Well,
yeah.
you're not. You know what? Once you can do away with the plot, it's odd how you could actually see a story.
Right.
It's like that doesn't even make sense. That
expectations and things go away. Yeah.
Right. So like, and to sort of segue, I was gonna say like I think I did a lot of reflection last night before I went to bed about why I feel like this, and it's because I didn't want this second chapter to be a horror movie, and I think I connect with the themes way more than I do what the movie actually is premise wise.
Okay.
And, I put that in there.
That's good. I'll be interested to hear your themes because I struggled with. It had so many different converging things.
Right.
I wasn't exactly sure.
Well, I think I just like the movie buries Pennywise a little bit. Right? Like much more than the first movie is like it's like a Freddy Krueger movie.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare movie.
Yeah.
That's about Pennywise.
Yeah.
This isn't about Pennywise. This movie.
Right.
Yeah. But we can get into that. We're the next segment on the outline was why was I bored, Jamie Nash.
Yeah, I put that
why
down.
was I bored?
Yeah, because I was trying to figure it out. Whenever I'm bored, I like to figure out like what isn't working. Because obviously, these are actors I like. This is a book I loved. All these things, but so there's a few different things I saw that, and again, I think it's cracking how they adapted this book into a movie. I'm of the opinion that the reason, and it's been many years since I've read the book, but it was a
same. It's been about 20 for me. How about you?
I never read.
You've never read the book.
Yeah.
Okay.
It all gets blurred with me because when I was a kid, I read all the Clive Barker stuff. I read It. I read Pet Sematary. Those were the ones, like the ones I had in my shelf were It, Pet Sematary, The Stand, I think. I don't know that I ever owned The Stand, but I think I got it from the library all the time. Anyway, so it all kind of all blurs. I'm not exactly sure, but it was a big mesh of that's when I was into these books, and I love these books. So it sat on my dresser for 10 years as a kid. I think what happens with this book, first of all, the book's a weird book. I don't know that I'd like it now.
Super weird book.
Yeah. I don't know that I'd like it now, but it just blew my mind.
I actually don't even think this is a bad adaptation of the book, adaptation-wise.
Gotcha.
I haven't read it for 20 years, but
no,
the book has its problems too, structurally.
It's like another book I had, like Lord of the Rings. I don't know that I'd like that now, but I love the movie because it kind of turned it into something that I could watch in a cinema and stuff. And I think this is kind of like that too.
This feels like a fantasy movie half the time.
Yeah. So the thing I was talking about before, how it does that kind of, I almost think it was the first time I ever saw this as a kid, was that lost structure where it's like future, past, future, past, future, past. The reason that worked to me was because in the future there wasn't a huge story in the book. It wasn't like it didn't even feel as linear, but it also allowed you to get under the skin of the protagonist in that they didn't have their memories of this. So as they were gaining their memories, we would learn more of their memories. So the two would collide. The first problem I noticed with the movie was that I was always ahead of those characters, and it made them seem almost naive or childlike at times, like they were reverting back or something.
Right.
But I was always ahead because I know what Pennywise is. I know the journey. I know Derry.
Totally.
I know that thing. So I think that was the first reason that I was a little taken out, because I was like, I'm ahead of it. Let's get to it.
So I thought on my drive home last night, Jamie, I'm not kidding you. I was thinking about this problem.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what is wrong with the character's knowledge of what's going on? And I was like, well, the problem is that it is only 2 years old, and there's no way to make a movie where I have forgotten what's going on.
Right. I thought of that.
I was
same
like,
thing.
there's no way to execute that.
Yeah.
You can't erase the first movie from my mind. So I was like, we don't rewrite movies on this podcast, but I was like, could I figure a way out to fix this problem?
Mhm.
And until this moment, I have not figured
Yeah.
anything out.
Well, that's that's one of my problems too. There is no sense of mystery, right? And
Right. That's a problem.
It's
yes.
twofold though.
Yeah.
Because they are presenting it as if there is a sense of mystery.
Yeah.
But they are not showing us characters. There's no evidence whatsoever of these being human beings who can't remember their childhood. Right. They're talking about it, but they're not walking around like... I mean, if you can't remember your childhood, that's a massive thing that someone would be experiencing. Okay. I don't remember where I lived. Who's my mom?
Well,
I
think they don't remember what they don't know what they don't remember.
It's too loose though. That's what I'm saying. I can't tell you what they do and don't remember. That's a problem.
Right.
There's an expectation that we should know that it and Derry has this cloud over it that affects their minds on a metaphysical level. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like they're still being manipulated even in adulthood. That is not shown on screen.
Right. And there's like 20 minutes before Mike says it's one of the last phone calls. He says that's why you can't remember, but we've seen every single character except for her, and we've been given no information that none of them are going about their lives not remembering.
Can I bring up something with this too?
Especially since they instantly recall the phone number and go, "Holy shit!"
This is a great there's something I wanted to talk about because the opening of the movie, which I know shocked a lot of people because it's horrible to watch.
Yeah,
is the two homosexual men get beaten, and one gets
murdered. It's like a hate crime with Pennywise.
It's in the book, and it's written there because it was a real crime that Stephen King wanted to call attention to. Like Derry is a small town with a lot of terrible values, and this was like a reflection of that. And that hate reawoke. It was enough power to give it to come back.
Yeah,
that amount of hate. The problem, I thought that the scene is obviously really well executed.
Yes.
And it's horrible to watch.
Scary.
The problem is that if you haven't read the book, it's hard to tell that was the thing that kind of reawoke Pennywise.
I read the book and I didn't even remember that, so I'm glad you brought it up.
Well, it's like that's... I read people
the
complaining about this and then people defending it. Yeah. So then I did my research.
It's like summoning him again.
Yeah, that was such an act of disgusting hate.
Yeah,
that
which
it
is
actually, fear, and that brought those guys are all about fear. That's why they're hurting these other people. So that actually reawoke Pennywise. The problem is the movie doesn't tell us this. The script doesn't communicate. Doesn't tell us what's happening. It seems like he just happenstancely gets killed.
Yeah,
and it doesn't seem like
that's a problem.
He's triumphantly returned or I'm back.
No, it's unceremonious.
It's
his
a
return.
Very awkward way and a very unassuming way that we should know what that.
Right.
Because it looks like a guy just was the victim of a hate crime, and then Pennywise happens to attack him. And it's like
he's walking by the river.
But there could have been a really beautiful fucking message there.
Yeah.
Of like the hate crime awoke Pennywise.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that Derry is now if you look at modern politics and themes and stuff, Derry feels like a town we should be talking about.
Yes.
In the story where
there's
the
something like really important there.
Right. So I like that when we get to the theme part, that's one of the things.
That's what we can talk about.
I like that part of the theme.
I brought that up because I was trying to, with Jimmy saying, like, it's not there's things that this movie does not convey or even attempt
It's
to.
not tangible for the audience.
Yes, like it's like the assumption on Andy Muschietti's part.
Yeah, everybody's
Machete.
No, it's assumption that like they're just they're. It's his assumption that we're just as knowledgeable about all this as him.
right.
And it's like, dude, I don't think
No.
people would understand what just
It's
happened.
not clear
It
at
could-
all.
They don't understand they're forgetting. They
That
don't understand
That
this.
could
Right.
be a
You know?
4-hour cut issue. That could
Yeah.
be. A
He
4-hour
says
cut.
so. Before we go
Those
on, he
things
says
are
that there is
important, though.
he says there's a 6-hour cut that'll be for Blu-ray, and I'm gonna watch it.
Is
I would
that is that
totally
of
watch
both
it.
movies or just
Both
this?
together.
Okay,
Both
that makes
together.
sense.
Yeah. No,
Gotcha.
Jamie,
I
not
was
just.
gonna say, I was like,
To
holy
me,
crap,
though,
I don't
it's
know.
like so simple. There's it's.
You could have showed Pennywise like crawling up or
well
something.
that
You know, I don't know.
But it's so easy to convey people like, why aren't they going around the table? What do you remember? What don't you remember? There's no discussion on what do you and don't you remember.
So
it's just like I can't remember much. It's
Also,
foggy.
there's a weird thing where I was also like, you know what? If somebody from that age in my life called me up on the phone,
yes.
I don't even remember anyone almost that was when I was that age, like 10, 12. How old are they in the first movie?
12,
12?
13.
Dude, if somebody called me from when I was 12, I'd be like, who were you? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's almost like, yes, of course you forgot who they were.
Yeah. Right. It's like
Yeah.
a natural thing.
It's a natural thing to forget. Yeah.
Here's another thing so this kind of connects with that same stuff. When I read this book as a kid, like to me, the kid stuff made sense because when I was a kid, I had adventures, whether they were real or not. I
Mhm.
approached the world in a different way, but I was also trapped in a world that, and this is the difference between then and now, where I didn't feel like going to my parents was ever the right thing to do. I
Right.
thought handle our
Mhm.
business in house. If I was bullied, you don't go to your parents.
Yeah.
You gotta hide from the guy or whatever. You gotta do your own
yeah.
thing. My parents, not that my parents would have done this, but I felt like could have been like, yeah, hit him in the mouth or whatever.
Yeah.
So it didn't feel like that was ever a solution. You felt like you were alone and isolated as a kid.
Yeah.
And you had to battle the world. However, when they're adults, and this is something I never felt really about the book, when they show up at that place, I mean, at Dairy, there was a part, and this is one of those things where I had a disassociation with them because I thought they handled it more like kids. The thing, like, oh, bugs, but
Yeah.
I'd be calling the police. I'd be like, I'm a billionaire screenwriter. I'm gonna go find the supernatural guy down
Right,
the road.
yeah.
I'm gonna Google this
I think,
shit.
yeah.
and
I'm not
here's the
gonna
thing is,
just
Good
go on a
point.
mission. Yeah, but so there was something there that was dreamlike
it just
or
needed
weird.
to be conveyed that they were being manipulated better.
Yeah.
It's not like
I
how they
agree.
acted
I
isn't
agree.
wrong. It's that the movie doesn't convey what is going on with their minds.
They
right
try to do it with the virus that's been spreading for 27 years. There's a line about it. They
Yeah.
try, but there's no visualization for it to stick. It's sort of all telling. A lot of what's trying to be
They're like
conveyed
under
is
this
all
cloud,
telling.
and they're not
It's a
showing
cloud.
it.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
It's
they
a
could have made like a
surreal kind of
clown,
cloud.
like a multicolored rainbow cloud.
Even
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
showing the presence of Pennywise watching them or something.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not saying I have the solution. I know people
Yeah.
say it's not a problem unless you got a solution, but
yeah,
there's something missing about saying what's going on with these people's minds.
right. That keeps you from
I'll
feeling
say the second watch totally helped.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw more of it in that second watch,
Mhm.
but the first one I did not get it
Yeah,
at
Yeah,
all.
maybe you came with your own answers a little bit. You know
I
what I
think
mean?
I did.
You had your
think-
own bag of
I know where
answers.
stuff's going. I don't
Yeah.
need the surprise. Once all the mystery and stuff is out of your system and you watch it again, I'm telling you, it cleans it up a little bit.
So another thing, and this is instructive to writers, but very difficult, and we talked about this in the first podcast, to write with this many protagonists and not get rid of a few of them.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, one of the solutions to
They
this
gotta follow
problem,
the book though too.
I get
Yeah.
that, and they follow the book some places and other places they
I know.
don't.
Yeah.
So, but you could have somebody. I mean, again, I'm rewriting Stephen King here. If somebody took off,
As you've earned the right to.
absolutely. If somebody did leave, it would make more sense to me because it would show me the range of emotions. Like if somebody's like, "Look, I'm not dealing with this. I'm
Yeah.
getting out of town."
I mean,
Yeah.
Richie tries to.
They
3
tried
times.
to.
Three
He
times.
but he doesn't. He never tries very effectively. It
They
doesn't
just sort of
seem.
like-
Once again, I think that's that
Right.
cloud that they're not showing.
Yeah,
Like
they're not showing us
Richie
the
could have never left because
the
he's
entrapment. of
So-
the supernatural force is not evident whatsoever.
That's
Right.
the thing. There's a monster in the house where there doesn't seem to be a
A
house
monster.
they're stuck in, isolated in.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
feel like they could leave at any time,
So
but they're only doing it almost for their pact, their blood pact,
Yeah.
but they don't remember that. So
yeah,
it's really fuzzy. It's like,
yeah.
and like you say, maybe there's this whole thing that I could almost explain it. Like the one guy killed himself. I could almost we have to deal with this, or we will also kill ourselves.
And
that ticking clock is there.
I think for the audience, it's once again we're ahead of the audience there, right? We see it before they do,
Yeah.
and I thought that was a great from a writing standpoint. I thought that was a great way to show us the end, show us the bad ending. This
Where
is,
they all
this
commit
is
suicide?
The bad ending, right?
Yeah,
and I thought, but since it takes them so long to catch up to that, it feels like
There's not a lot of urgency. Like, is there a reason why they couldn't take this over the span of a year to solve this problem and
Right.
figure it out?
Right.
Is there a reason they have to do it in a day, 24 hours? And I think the book might actually have a longer span.
Okay, in defense of the movie, I think I listened more this time.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm the half man of this podcast.
Yeah, sure.
I saw it all too many times. Mike, it's the stuff Mike says, and I think he's like actually almost my favorite character in this movie.
Mine too.
Oddly enough, like Richie,
Yeah, he's trying to
Richie's
fix
great, but-
things.
Right, he's trying to fix things, but he's expositively dumping information
Yes.
at light speed,
Yes.
and he says a lot of stuff that I didn't even catch that first time.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
admit
Where
that.
That's a problem.
Right. And so even though it should be understood, he's trying to get them all. We're at the end of the 27-year cycle chunk.
Okay.
Like Pennywise came back and he's only here for a short amount of time where he's going to suck kids, eat a bunch of kids. So Mike is like calling everybody to get them to come back so they can collectively kill it while he's still awake.
See, and that
Is
so-
not conveyed
at
with
all.
the ticking clock aspect.
Right, there's no
Yes. That
that's
should
there's
be-
no
he
deadline
says
for
it,
the ritual.
But he says it.
He does.
It's so passive. I was like, oh, that's where it was. Last night I was like,
Yeah.
he does say it. Okay.
It feels like there's no deadline.
I vaguely even remember him saying it, but it just
Because
didn't.
it's an
not really
it's an exposition
emphasized.
dump that is so
They keep saying
fast.
we don't have much time, but they don't remind us what they're talking about.
That he's
going
gonna
to
go to sleep again.
It's running out. That is
Penny-
not clear at
'cause
all.
the way that
Yeah.
the movie is made.
That's a great deadline before he goes to sleep again.
Right. The way the movie is presented is that Derry is constantly under Pennywise's thumb or
Okay,
foot or
yeah.
boot or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That he's constantly been terrorizing this town and eating all the kids. That is not what's happening here. This is like a Jeepers Creepers type of situation. The monster goes to sleep and then decades later wakes up and eats and then goes back to sleep. And he's doing that for a billion years.
There's a part of me though that and again this is like story logic, but it's like let him go back to sleep, then we'll collect our totems, we'll figure it all out, we'll come up with a plan, we'll be ready, and we'll go right in the sewer and bam, we kill him.
That's it. We'll see. So he just there's no debate.
There's no debate.
What's
And
happening?
there might be a good
is
reason for
they're
that.
Yeah.
debating him speaking at all.
Yeah.
They're like, we don't want to talk about this. There's the only debate that happens is them saying, Mike, don't talk about this anymore. We're scared.
Right.
There isn't debating over. Let's figure out a better way to solve this.
Now,
That's what Jamie. That's
I'll be
it.
the defender all the time.
Yeah.
Is that the defense of that is that the theme of this book and both of these movies is absolute fear. Right. So what you guys are saying is totally logical, and that does make sense. But these characters are almost their logic has been displaced.
Right.
They're not acting like adults, logical adults.
Yeah, they
They're
do
not-
seem like they're
their
acting
logic
like
is
adults.
displaced. What I'm saying is the problem is it's not being conveyed.
I got
That's-
it.
I'm fine with
Exactly.
them not being logical because of what's happening. But
Yeah,
it's
no,
not
I agree.
being conveyed properly.
I think
Yeah.
conveying it,
Yeah.
if that was conveyed, then that's a whole nother matter. There's a reason for it. But so the other thing that happens with this, and you can almost feel this is almost, I don't remember this from the book. So if this was in there,
I don't
I'll
really
be
remember
surprised.
the book either, dude.
Yeah.
So. To be honest, so it doesn't
Because this
matter.
almost feels like a
I'm going to
screenwriter.
reread it actually. 'cause
Yeah,
of this,
I want
so,
to now.
yeah.
So this feels like a
Yeah.
screenwriter trying to do something, but the episodic structure, the totems, it feels like they got
So-
a note that said, I don't know if the totems is in the story.
I read up on this a
Okay.
little bit.
Then go for it.
Now you remember how the book originally ends with Maturin, the turtle.
The turtle.
So
Yes.
they didn't do the turtle,
Right.
obviously, because I think if they did, I don't know how I would love it, but I think I can understand why mass audiences aren't going to understand a giant floating space turtle that is the enemy of this thing.
Yeah.
It's too much. It's I mean, for a 3-hour movie and then it ends like that, I can imagine.
Wasn't there even something that the ritual they had to like
Ritual
French kiss
chewed.
it or
Ritual
something,
chewed.
and bite his tongue or something?
Well, so
I remember something weird like that.
They adapted that stuff. Now remember, I'm saying this from reading other people talking about it.
Yeah.
They adapted the Ritual of Chewed, which was which in the book I think was to connect, but it was to like ask Matern for help to get him to take on Pennywise and all that stuff.
Okay.
I can't remember, but that's what I read. They turned it into ancients who had fought Pennywise.
Right.
They made a ritual up, and Maturin was the name of the stuff that they drank so that they could find a way to defeat Pennywise.
Gotcha.
So they turned the turtle into like a root that you drink.
It's a little like the
They brought it down to earth a little more.
It's a little like the Fantastic Four movie turning Galactus into a purple cloud. In some ways.
It totally. And so,
which I don't have a problem with in theory.
I don't think it's bad.
My whole thing,
but it turns it into a video game in the way they do it. It's like everyone has to get their coin.
But even that is really loose.
It's loose.
How do you find? There's no like, here's how you got to find your artifact. There's just like, there's something you need to find, and they walk in the room. They're like, here it is.
Yeah.
Instantly.
No.
So no, just mystery. Where is it? What am I looking for?
You know what the problem is? The problem with this is that
this is the part I got bored of the movie.
No, this is the huge problem with this book and this as a movie is that it's all about feel. Yeah. It's how, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're finding their tokens based almost totally on emotion and how they feel. This feels like my token.
Right.
Trying to convey that on a screen is like fucking impossible.
Here it is.
Well,
I'm on the movie side a little bit. I'm on the side of this movie because I'm like, this is really hard shit to like make.
Yeah.
They'd have to totally rewrite it chapter 2 as a different thing completely.
And that's what I was sort of expecting them to do.
Yeah.
Or adapt. I mean, again, adapting it the way it was written in the book, I actually think would work because then they wouldn't have to do as much heavy lifting.
Right.
Stephen King apparently read chapter 2. Did you read this? And
no, I didn't.
He read it, and the only note he said, he told Andy or whatever. He said, I think it's really good. Only thing I want is, can you put the Paul Bunyan statue in there?
Yeah.
That was his note. So for this kind of, I think this tone is like what King actually considers the book. This like tonally is what the original source material is supposed to have.
Gotcha.
He's fine with it.
Gotcha.
I think that it's a problem with the actual source material to screen versus an actual screenwriting problem.
I think it's
but it is instructive that it's not communicated to the audience.
It's totally instructive.
So,
but I was trying to defend it. I'm trying to defend it.
That's fine. That's healthy.
So here's the thing, though. My problem with the missions, the totems. First of all, it feels like a writer's hand. It feels like somebody. We need a goal. What are they going to do in the fun and games section before the blah blah blah?
They got to have. They're all face off against Pennywise.
In the book, they probably sat around, talked for a little while, and then rushed off to solve the problem, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it was in between seeing their past, so they're remembering that stuff, and the past is really the driver of the narrative until the end when they go off and do the same thing a second time in some ways.
So is the book structured like the future is a wraparound?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yes. That's all intentional.
The chapters alternate.
Okay.
So they can leave a lot of things vague, and they can just talk about feelings and the new stuff.
That so makes sense.
And it totally works. I know.
And then you build up to them actually taking action in the very end based on all the recollection.
That's right. So the recollection is the action.
Yeah.
And the problem with the movie is we already know the recollection.
Right.
So they can't. But they tried to kind of have their cake and eat it too. So they had to give them a goal. So they do the totems thing. What does the totems thing do? It triggers a memory, a flashback, to kind of give it that alternating structure that the book has in a weird sort of way. So here are my problems with that side of it. One, it's a problem with having too many characters. After I got through one of these, I was like, oh, they're going to make me watch, what is it, 6? Or how many of them?
Yeah.
6 of these?
Yeah, right.
Like 3 of these I'll take. 2 of these I'll take. Or at least have them build off each other. Like, oh, Pennywise tricked me. It's not the totems. Then they got to do something else.
Yeah.
Instead, it was so predictable. It was like episodes. It was like, here's the pattern.
More of the same.
I go in. I see the old thing.
Extremely.
I find the trinket. Pennywise attacks. I have a flashback. Pennywise attacks. Everyone was
It was
exactly the
expected.
same.
And I agree. I would say within themselves though, they're pretty instructive for character.
Yes,
Like, you
they
know what I'm saying?
express character
Like
fears.
on a positive note,
they express the fears.
and they bring back they help bring that eventual childhood trauma
It
full
shows you
circle.
your monsters.
The problem is how they are executed within the structure of the movie.
right
It's like I actually really like them as vignettes. Does
on
that
their
make sense?
own.
On their own.
But what you're saying
They-
is that
you know
The
what-
short films of
Yeah.
these
No,
things.
you know
are-
what they felt like
Yeah.
to me? They felt like deleted scenes
Yeah,
that I
yeah,
would
no,
watch.
no,
and
I
I'd be
agree.
like,
I'm not
oh, okay, I
disagreeing.
see
Yeah.
why they deleted that, but that informs his character.
It felt like,
Yes.
and I
it's
deleted
like a
it.
TV show.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like,
It felt like a TV show.
so
Mhm.
Yeah.
I felt
like,
like
this is the Richie episode. This is
This
the Eddie episode.
They all would have been like that on Netflix. You know?
Mhm.
so the biggest
Right.
reason why I was bored was I think I watched an hour of deleted scenes.
Yeah.
And it
Mhm.
just, I was like, get on with the movie. I
Yeah.
know all this stuff. I kind of know where you're going. I just want the thing to happen. I want the
Yeah.
story to kick in. I want and this was kind of like a fake story in some ways. The totems, they kind of put that in so we could have these
Yeah.
moments.
And this gets into what I was saying too.
Yeah.
It was like it turned out that I wanted that stuff
more
and not. I don't
Yeah.
care about getting to where you're talking
yeah,
about.
yeah.
I liked that stuff.
Yeah.
From this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The character stuff you're saying.
Yeah, I could have done without Pennywise until the very end.
Mhm.
Honestly, I
And
could have done with that. That'd be fine with me.
honestly,
Yeah.
the Pennywise stuff to me gets really redundant because there's no threat to it. He never kills anybody. I don't understand what he's doing. He's just booga booga booga. So they
So-
run away.
Right.
I don't
So I
get
was
it.
trying to understand this
Yeah.
too, like, and I wonder how much this is represented in the text of the script. It's never conveyed. Once again, conveying what's happening. It's never conveyed very well if Pennywise is manipulating your mind or he's actually there in person.
Right.
There's two, because those two things are happening,
Mhm.
and every time somebody lives, that's usually when he's not actually there. He's just
Yeah.
making you see a hologram.
Right.
That's it. But
Right.
the movie doesn't do a good job of like
Is
telling
it a
us that.
physical entity?
Because Pennywise
Right.
can also be there as a hologram himself.
Right.
So you're like, wait, is he actually there?
Right.
Because why doesn't he just run after that guy?
Yeah, why
and kill
doesn't he
him?
just kill them?
It works
But no,
against the
Like
fact that
Richie sees him in the park sitting on top
Mhm.
of Paul Bunyan, and I'm like, why doesn't Pennywise just kill him? And he's like, I'm like, because he's not there.
Mhm.
The scene is doing a bad job showing that Pennywise is actually just putting it in Richie's mind that
Right.
he's that's that's all mental. But the movie doesn't tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big problem.
Yeah.
It's a super big
Yeah.
problem.
And
Yeah.
also in the totem scenes, just how they're so formulaic, it even
Right,
makes
yes.
it weirder because if it was a memory, it would be a little bit more. Maybe it happens this time. Maybe it doesn't happen this time. Maybe it. Instead, it's almost this pattern. It's find the
and
totem,
trying to
have
apply
a flashback. Pennywise
Yeah.
jumps out. Find a totem. I'm like, they're gonna make me watch 6 of these.
And it was
And finding
the
the-
same exact thing
Same-
over and over.
same
the
thing.
weird thing is too is like we're talking about how like where's the logic in all this,
Mhm.
and then there's be moments where it's like, wait, if that's just in your mind, if it's just fear, him using fear to manipulate you and see things, how come what's the hypochondriac
Eddie.
How come when Eddie gets barfed on by the vision, the barf stays on him?
Right. It's
That-
very
So that
it's too loose.
right, and I can't remember in the book if it stays on him, but I know that's a small
Probably
thing.
doesn't
But I'm
even
like,
say.
wait, if Pennywise is putting that in his mind, how can the barf still be on him
Right.
when he runs out of that place?
So it's the difference
Like,
I didn't
between
even
Freddy
think of that.
Krueger
Yeah,
rules
rules versus
for the
Pennywise
monster.
rules. Yeah,
and the lack of, and we had that in the last movie, and like in some ways
It's
it
very
works,
similar in that way.
It works to
Unless-
its advantage in some ways, but the negative is we're confused about why he's able to do what he's
well, I
able
think
to do, and
and
when.
Freddy's rules are pretty well defined.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
His
yeah, yeah.
are versus
Freddy can be a little arbitrary about his kills sometimes
Yeah.
too. Like somebody gets away, somebody.
But the
doesn't,
dream
you know,
world
yeah.
has its rules for the monster.
You can pull Freddy into the real
Yeah,
world,
and they expand on the mythology and blah blah. But this one, pretty much the only rule of Pennywise is that he'll show up when you're scared, and he could show up when you're scared anytime. It's like that's it. There's not really anything else besides the 27 years comes to feed.
which it
Talking
does
about
bring,
his powers.
Is there some kind of instructive thing we could take from having like an omniscient villain that's just Pennywise is like almost all powerful. Like
So
there's
here-
no,
Here's the one thing I'll say.
and that makes it for boring.
No, there are,
That's
Yeah,
there are
you know.
movies where all powerful, omniscient, not able to understand the rules makes sense.
Lovecraft.
This
Right.
This movie steps into a more of a fantasy kind of sci-fi. I know people jump on me when I say sci-fi.
He's an alien.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's an alien.
There's
so.
rules to beating him. So he needs rules.
Exactly. That's what it is.
So if you're in the Blair Witch where you never explain anything.
Oh, yeah, the movie you wrote?
Yeah, the movie I wrote. I wrote all its sequels. No.
Right.
If you're in the Blair Witch and you never explain anything, that's okay.
It's fine.
It has power. We don't understand it. It's alien.
Because it's not defeated.
Because it's not defeated. There's not a plan to attack it. There's not this logic structure to why they're there and all this stuff. But this movie crosses into that, I think. I mean, this movie is more. That's why I think it breaks out into a bigger audience, is because it is more like an adventure, a dark adventure, or a quest.
Think
or
in the
something.
end, what you're saying, the whole thing would be better if they had just said, we're going to get rid of the chewed and the Maturin and all the artifact stuff. And the ending is all of them learning that all they have to do is come together and not be afraid.
Right, they don't even need
that's
the ritual.
Enough. That's also like,
I think the ritual.
That's also like, arbitrary and like spiritual enough that it kind of makes sense to fight a character like Pennywise, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, we just have to not be afraid and love each other,
Yeah.
and we'll beat him.
The wrong way goes the ritual.
Right.
And they don't do a good job. The ritual for me is what makes this movie fall apart story-wise, because like it's not explained.
And that's the thing that's not in the book.
It's just rushed through, and it's a symptom. Like while they're doing it, they're like, "What do we do next, Mike?
Yeah.
What do we do next?
Mike's the only
is
one
this
who
how
knows.
it works?" They literally ask him, "Is this working?"
So
that's a symptom of
did you
like
guys-
not having it clearly stated.
Did you
to the
guys realize
audience.
too that there was a betrayal? Even
Right.
it kind of doesn't convey
It's
very
a
well.
trick.
It's a trick.
Well, no,
yeah.
it's not a trick. Mike didn't tell them that the last people
Didn't
who
work.
did it.
Yeah.
Didn't work. They all got slaughtered.
Yeah.
He didn't tell him, and it's like there's this whole like thing on Mike's character arc on that where he's like, I thought we could do it.
Yeah.
I thought we could come together. It would be different than they were, and it's not. It's so passively conveyed.
Yeah. Well, even like, how are we?
That's why the second rewatch is better for me, honestly, because I got it.
Because you understand. Okay.
Because I caught it.
Yeah.
I'm saying that I'm not saying it's okay, but I'm saying a second rewatch gives you all the stuff that is glossed the fuck over. It's just like completely.
Yeah.
Unceremoniously, just like, what? Okay. But then you kind of catch up.
Gotcha.
I caught up with the movie the second time.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a mammoth to unpack because like so much of it kind of I like dig the parallel a lot. Like a lot of it, I like them kind of showing us the deleted scenes of the first movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I know
it was
a lot
weird
of
for me.
A lot of people. I think that in a full cut, it'll actually really work well. I think that 6 hour could be.
Well, I'm wondering
awesome.
if the 6 hour will do the book
Probably.
version.
No.
I'm hoping
That
it
would
will.
be
He said
interesting.
full re-edit.
Yeah.
Full re-edit. Both.
So
Wow.
I'm actually encouraged by that because I think it could work very well. Maybe. We'll see.
I think, the silly putty of putting this into a movie that could be in theaters just tripped him up.
Yeah.
Mm,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah. Where are we?
Well,
Yeah. No, it's okay.
There's so much to talk about.
we're right
Yeah.
on it, but the
Yeah.
flashbacks, they kind of tie into the other thing. And I kind of said, to me, and this is instructive,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know, you
okay.
hear never use flashbacks. I think this movie actually kind of shows you maybe why. If you didn't like it, maybe if you love the flashbacks, you'll be like, I should use flashbacks.
Yeah.
But to me, they were just character moments. They didn't, for me, they didn't necessarily, and this is more of an execution thing. None of them hit me in a way that I really was excited about watching them. They all felt like these little deleted scenes, vignettes. They were important to inform us, I guess, to some of the character stuff that's going to happen later on in the story. But that's about the only thing they served, in my opinion, was just. And there are other ways you can do that.
It's like a movie made by somebody who loves the source material too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
they're too in love with it. Like, hey, you should really be interested in this. You're like, I'm not interested. I don't need to see it. It's not story plot.
And the flashbacks to me were a little bit of a patch because they had to unwind the material the way
Right.
they did.
Yeah.
So now they had to
Patch,
go back
lots
to
of
it.
patch. Yeah, I think so. I'm of two. I actually don't mind flashbacks when I have
in general.
I have two feelings about flashbacks. I think there's a phrase for it that I can't remember. It's the lost thing. It's if a character is experiencing the flashback in the present, meaning they're thinking about it and feeling the things that they experienced in the flashback in the present, technically it's not a cheat. And I actually think that that's what's happening in this movie. They're recollecting in the moment. But a lot of times you'll see flashbacks in a screenplay that just show up in the screenplay. The person that we're following in the present is not thinking about them. We're just showing them. And that, I think, is a cheat.
Yeah.
This one, I think it works. For me, I think...
I totally agree with Jimmy on this one.
I think why it doesn't feel weighty in this is because the movie is intending them to be answers to questions that the characters have. I need to figure out what happened, and the flashback is what happened. But that's not how it's received from us as the audience.
It's what we said at the beginning, dude.
Because once again, we already know what happened.
We already know.
And it's what we said. Yeah. It's not conveyed that they don't remember this shit.
So it doesn't feel like an answer to a question.
It's revelatory for nobody.
So it's inconsequential. They're inconsequential. But if they had managed to make it like, what happened to me, and then we see the monster, then it would be a huge revelation for each of them, and it would land. But that's what I think they're trying to do, and that's why I think they feel like it has weight and merit, but it's not that.
It's not something that works at all when you watch it for the first time.
Yeah,
it does not hold water. With future viewings, I guarantee it'll hold a little bit more.
Gotcha.
Not that you're ever going to watch it again, but I'm telling you.
I mean,
I'll watch the 6 hour messed up. I definitely will watch that.
It kills the momentum, man. It's like the problem with flashbacks, I think, is it's always taking you backwards, and it kills any form of momentum. And usually when we're seeing someone in a threatening situation they need to survive, you don't care because you know they survived.
Well, I think the other thing that
they're remembering this.
Another thing that one of those screenwriting techniques or things, flashbacks typically do not move the story forward, typically. So you have to find a way to make them move the story forward, or do you feel that way, or feel they just slow things down. It's like, here, I'm going to give you some data. You got the data, move on.
Yeah.
And in this case, it was especially painful because we have the data they don't have.
Yes.
We're ahead of them. We have a whole 3-hour movie.
I feel like that's like the one note that you could just say about the whole movie is that is where we are versus where they are.
Yes,
and it's just,
there's
that's what
makes superior position.
If you're not on board with the emotion of the movie, it's over. You're bored and you've got nothing.
And
I totally agree.
In the later parts of the movie, where I was already for me, the first half of the movie disengaged me. I was just kind of bored.
Yeah.
The second half of the movie, I'm in line with their journey a little more. The only thing I'll say about the second half of the movie, it felt a little redundant to the first movie.
The same exact thing.
It's the same thing again.
It didn't necessarily feel like the same exact thing, but a little different. It felt like the same exact thing.
Yeah.
To me,
I agree.
I'm not sure if that's
the problem. Is like that's what that story is.
Yeah,
that's fine.
I think this is all a problem of adaptation. To be honest with you, I blame Stephen King more than I blame him.
But again,
you know what I mean?
The reason
I don't know what else to do.
The reason it's okay in the book is because it's revealing it side by side.
Yeah.
So we're seeing the same thing happen again.
Yeah.
As we learn about it for the first time.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like we saw that, a whole book ago.
Yeah, the beginning of the book.
Oh, they're out of ideas. They're just doing the same. Instead, it's this thing where both are happening almost concurrently.
Yeah.
They're riding parallel tracks. And I think that's
so. Is
problem.
there tension and suspense over
There's
the
tension
outcomes?
And suspense because you're wondering how that one's going to end. You're wondering how this one's going to end. You're wondering, and
that's
both,
awesome.
They're both
I love
chasing
that.
each other. And it was
the 6-hour cut could fix this.
It could fix this.
It actually could totally. Like, there's hope.
That might be interesting. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because then it could it could work itself up to get to the ending of 1 and 2 happening.
That'll be a shit ton of work for them to do that. To re-edit 6 hours.
I mean, this dude obviously loves it.
Yeah.
Let's not take that away from him.
He'll give it to some editor, and he'll show up the last day.
He's like, that was
put in Paul Bunyan.
Put in Paul Bunyan.
Stephen King, put in Paul Bunyan. What a note. That's Stephen King's fucking note. Put in Paul Bunyan. Oh yeah, but Jamie, you wrote something here. I think it's a good thing to talk about. Is types of horror.
Types of horror,
which is the 3 types that we usually talk about, right?
Yeah. So this movie, the 3 types we usually talk about. And there's a Stephen King quote that we usually go with, but I don't have that written down. But generally speaking, he says, I'll put it in my words. He says, first he'll try to horrify you, then he'll try to terrify you, and then if he doesn't do those, he'll go for the gross out.
Oh, really? I thought one was dread.
Well, These are Stephen King's words.
Dread is terror.
Yeah, he uses.
Okay.
For me, I hate the word terrify and horrify or whatever. He might do it vice versa. I can't remember because they sound like the same thing. I can never tell what's what.
Yeah.
So I usually go with dread and terror and gross out.
Yeah.
And dread is the impending.
Dread is that
fear.
thing is coming. That weird feeling, that thing that's creeping up on
Which
you.
is
That
kind of what
tension.
Stephen King's a master at.
He's a master of that.
Yeah.
Terror is when the thing jumps out at you.
Mhm.
When you see Pennywise, that's terror. And then last but not least, the gross out is pretty obvious.
Yeah.
What that is.
So the fortune cookies.
So
barfing and blood and all that. Yeah.
like you see a movie like Get Out or something, it does a really good job with the dread. It just feels creepy for a while.
You have
something.
no clue what's going on. The whole
You don't really know what's going on.
right.
You're just out of sorts, and it's whining, and then something happens. I think this movie, because it's a big blockbuster, it goes for the terrify more. And there's not a inherent problem with that. It's just a different feeling, So it has a lot of Pennywise. There's another version of this movie that you hardly ever see Pennywise. They save it to the end, and it's just, you always expect, or Pennywise is always in the shadows, or almost the thing like with the old lady creeping, like when she starts creeping down the hall. That's really creepy and weird, and just how she's staring and how it's acting. Those things are truly creepy to me. They're like the best scenes of this movie.
And then the shock
Dreadful.
part isn't as scary.
And then the shock part when it's that animated old lady with the boobs or whatever.
Yeah.
To me, it's like it's more comical. Like I'm almost laughing at it.
Yeah.
And that's not a problem. I think this director kind of has a weird, quirky sense of humor. I remember Mama has some weird kind of characters.
Yeah.
And the ending of that movie almost feels more like Amblin or E.T. or something than it does a horror movie. So he's kind of the right choice in some ways for this type of movie. I think it's a pretty good marriage of material.
I would like the version of this movie where you almost don't see Pennywise to the end.
Yeah.
Like I saw some complaints that there wasn't enough, and I was like, man, you want
What?
more? I don't know what he
How
was
much
doing.
more?
I think sometimes people don't understand. And again,
Never listen to what they want. Number one.
Yeah. No, I think
Which is what we're doing on this podcast.
Right.
I think what sometimes happens is they identify the problem, but maybe they shouldn't diagnose the solution. So the problem might be that it's not scary because it's
too much.
It's too much. There's no real consequence to the attacks.
Mhm.
All these things could be the problem. The solution might be less Pennywise. It might be more creepy stuff. It might be.
This should be a Jaws movie.
The Jaws factor.
Yeah, not that I'm even saying. I'm not really making a determination whether there should be more or less Pennywise. I'm just giving you an example.
I think there should be less.
Yeah,
I do. The movie that I like is the one with less Pennywise. Because like the Pennywise scenes, to me, I want them out of the way.
I didn't have any problem with any of that.
They're well executed. I just want to. I'm more interested in the childhood trauma.
Everything you've discussed, we've already talked about the things that disengaged me. Like, I didn't ever feel that anybody was actually looking to find their memories. I didn't ever feel like there was urgency to do the ritual. It was like, we gotta hurry. And I was like, but you didn't tell me why we have to hurry. Like, some kids are gonna die, but aren't some kids always gonna die? Like, this is nothing new. When Pennywise is around, like, we have to hurry.
I think there's
I was fine with all the Pennywise stuff.
I think a couple things.
I'd like it. I'm not saying it could be a movie that's just about the adults trying to remember, more concise, and then you get to the big third act,
which is what you're telling me the book is.
No, I don't know if that's what. I don't have the authority to say that.
My favorite scenes, like to me, the most effective scenes were all the weird people before the Paul Bunyan scene. When they were just staring.
Mm-hmm.
The old lady scene that's in the trailer is great. And then I really like the bleachers and the kid. Like I thought that was a good scene.
Really good.
Even though it felt like an aside. Like it
didn't go anywhere.
Meanwhile, back in Derry,
people aren't looking for the little girl.
That girl was introduced earlier. Remember?
Yeah, but I mean, people aren't really looking for her, and then the adults could have informed that. I don't know.
Those scenes were effective horror scenes. To
Absolutely.
Me. The ones in the flashbacks and stuff less so. Just because I think I know they're not going to get killed, and then they introduce.
I don't think those were supposed to be horrifying necessarily, though.
Yeah.
I don't. I think
then why have them?
Because they're character moments.
Yeah.
It's all character. Hence, what I was trying to say is premise versus theme. It's like it's way more interested in the theme, and the premise is kind of pushed to the side.
Yeah.
and like sloppily executed.
The
The
bullet
monster movie part of it's like, eh.
Yeah.
We kind of wish we didn't have to do this.
there are some things in the book though that aren't in the movie that I think could have helped me, because I didn't connect as much with the characters either. So some of the stuff like Jessica Chastain's character when she was kind of the abusive situation, that seems to get pushed to the side a little bit for a love triangle. I thought a little
it doesn't
bit.
really get explored.
That's
at
not
all.
really in the book, I don't think, as much either.
Doesn't her husband get possessed by Pennywise in the book? And
I
he
don't
comes
remember.
to
Maybe
Derry
that
and
would make
like
sense.
That would kinda
I'm
make
pretty sure
sense.
the Henry Bowers stuff is not in the book, and instead it's her husband and Bill's wife are both possessed by Pennywise
maybe-
I
and
actually-
attacking.
One of my favorite parts of this movie
I know
is
some of the family does come in
Yeah.
the book.
I'll be
just don't
honest,
remember.
like one of my favorite parts of this movie is the Henry Bauer stuff. It's just because that to me it's such an aside from everything that's happening.
And that's my question: is that Pennywise in the car driving the
Yeah.
car,
Well,
or is it his zombie friend?
well,
what is it?
whatever it's actually there. It's actually physically there.
Okay.
Because when I forget who, Richie is looking out the window, he sees him get in the car after he smiles at him, and there is somebody driving the car.
Driving the car.
So it is an actual zombie of Hofstetter or whatever his name was.
Okay.
Being powered by it.
Yeah.
Confusing. Because what's
Very
his rules?
confusing.
it feels a very.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I liked
The Henry Bauer stuff.
I like the
Yeah.
Henry Bauer
okay.
stuff. Because to me, he's a complete aside to all the weird. This is just a guy being driven crazy by Pennywise who's out to kill everybody. And I was like,
scary.
it's kind of something that has rules and I can understand.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I
totally.
love the addition. To me,
Me too.
I mean,
Yeah.
I could
Yeah.
see you might even enjoy the fact that it's almost inconsequential. Like
Yeah.
it's just they throw it away. I think the addition of it.
Well,
and
Mike gets his arc on
he
that.
does. He
Yeah.
does. I almost wish I think there could have easily been a little more of that to make more tension and the physical.
I think he should have
Yeah.
lived until the end.
Yeah.
I think he
Yeah.
should have shown up in that hole,
right.
and there should have been some kind of. Mike should have confronted him with Pennywise, or
It would have
something.
given a good mix to the tension.
Yeah,
It wouldn't
yeah.
have all been surreal, weird stuff. There was just one real threat.
Yeah.
It's a little like The Shining or something.
Yeah.
You got the haunted house, but
Absolutely.
then
So-
you got the killer.
Yeah,
One of the things
that's
that
that's a great
one of the things
comparison.
the first movie does that really well, the first movie in this, not the first original adaptation. Remember how there was all that stuff on the televisions that the parents were watching?
Right.
They would watch TV, and then like Pennywise would show up on the television
Yeah.
and
yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
That gave the whole thing an air. That was the conveying
Mhm.
what's going on behind the scenes.
Right.
And the more I think about it, this movie just has none of that.
I-
And the
yeah.
problem is no one's, except for Mike, no one's living there.
yeah.
So how would you have any of that?
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
See, that
Right.
gets back to when we were
I don't know.
when we were originally talking about, like, it feels very modern to be talking about dairy. That's the part that I like that theme, but it seemed not to care as much as I did about that. Like, I wanted the
Yeah.
story to be about small towns or the horror, not Pennywise. Kind of. Again, I'm rewriting it a little bit,
You're writing
but-
Stephen King.
but if you throw that
Yeah.
throw that first scene in there, that's obviously this linkage of hate crimes and stuff like
That's
that.
something they should have followed.
It should have followed. I
And
wanted that
conveyed
thread to be
more.
in there, but maybe there was
Especially to
just
put
too
such a
soft.
powerfully horrible scene to watch and not follow through with it. It does. People were complaining it was superfluous, and I'm like, well, in the way it was conveyed,
in
yeah,
the way
it
it was
is.
conveyed.
It's
That's
not.
exactly it.
It's
That's exactly
not to the story if conveyed differently.
Right.
Mhm.
But you're right. It seems superfluous to the average moviegoer
And-
who hasn't read the book.
And that
Right.
It's like, why did I have to
yeah,
watch?
the context is not there.
Why did I have to watch this guy get mercilessly slaughtered? I don't
Yeah,
know.
and
Yeah.
the first movie had the feel of, like, just like you say, the television, the people staring, whatever it was. This movie, sometimes I was even a little confused about dairy. Like even the beginning at that scene, that kind of carnival didn't strike me immediately as dairy or something.
Yeah, it seemed fine.
Yeah.
Seemed
It honestly
something
seemed fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there were
Yeah.
areas of it that it didn't have that small town. Anyway, it's just that's on my wish list.
It's
I
also-
wish they did more.
That
of
was also a scene from now
right.
to help a little bit. Like it wasn't
Mhm.
modern. It wasn't the dairy from the 80s.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's hard to put your finger on what's exactly wrong with this.
Yeah. I think we've done a good.
We've done a good job. I mean, the mechanics of it, there's something missing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah, there is.
For me,
Yeah.
once I disengage, then I start either nitpicking or not caring or something like that. So for me, almost all of it's up front that I have the problem with. by the time I get to the end, I'm just, I mean, they're, it's like either I'm not there. I don't care as much. So even if it's really executed well, I can't be a fair judge.
You were
I was just
already
kind of
out.
already checked out a little bit.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what time is it? Let me get home.
And I think that's where I was even more engaged the second time because like I moved past all these problems, which I had, and I was just with the movie presented by the adults. I was really just that's where I hung all of my interest in, and that's kind of what I love. But I can completely see that the dump trucks full of information and shit that are hanging around that is distracting from it holding weight with most people. It's like, because it is.
Everybody I've talked to likes this movie.
I've had a lot of friends
the two of us.
I have a lot of friends who hate it, so
It was, I would say it's
divisive, I guess, but not in a.
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes wise, it was like 60% on Rotten Tomatoes, and if you look at the reviews, it's a good number for it because they were mainly like B's or C pluses or B minuses. It wasn't like any. There were some people that loved it, but mostly I'd say it was a solid like. Yeah, I liked it. But more people liked it than didn't. So
I think it's because it
speaks to it.
All the problems we have with it are kind of. I think most people are just like it's exactly what I expected it would be. There are no surprises. It's not really that thrilling to watch.
There aren't many surprises.
It's sort of a Lifetime movie with Pennywise in it. It really
That's
is.
fine too.
I know, and that's kind of what I like about it.
Yeah, I like those ideas.
And I'm like. Having redigested it, like that part of it, I felt way more connection with the adults and their connection. It made me think about my own childhood trauma and my friends and where we've come and like
and I
that's
did,
what. Yeah,
I felt like there was really some good hearty stuff with because I personally experienced this when you reconnect with your past, you sort of regress into old personality traits and things. It's like your trauma never leaves you. Like if I'm around a bully who is grown up, I may have not been affected by this bully, consciously felt like I was affected by this bully, but if I'm in his presence, I'm suddenly 11-year-old me.
Yeah.
And I'm powerless to that regression.
Right.
And I think that was tangible when they all got together. I've been like, I've experienced this. I've got together with people I haven't seen since middle school, and suddenly I felt like there was this weird power dynamic that I hadn't thought about or cared about in 20 years that's suddenly here, and it's like childish, and I felt like those things it tapped into that.
It's also incredibly sentimental.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, that ending is.
I love that.
I know. I love it, but it's not a movie that's for horror fanatics. That ending
is
not for horror fanatics or anything. It is incredibly hard.
It made me feel
right, or just how dare they? How dare they make that movie?
Yeah,
it should be something completely different.
Right.
They should kill him with utter hate, and then they go, go on and lead their awesome lives.
Yeah, the last lines in the movies. I love you, man. Between two guys just saying I love you, man.
It's Mike and they're on the phone.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
It's Stanley reading his not suicide note.
The suicide letter is the last. Yeah. But the two last lines between the characters are I love you.
Yeah.
That's great.
If I could make a non-script comment, because I was thinking about, okay, if I were to be a producer on this and I would give this movie to somebody else, who do I think could actually handle it to make it make sense? And I think if you gave it to like Sam Raimi, where he hits everything with the bluntness of a hammer in his movies. Exposition wise, he's very good at showing things. You know what I mean? Like showing why and how things work.
Yeah.
That's what it needed. That kind of bluntness so we know the rules of the world before we even get to the emotion.
Yeah.
And this movie does not care. We're at the emotion moment one, and it's all just we're under this cloud, looking through cellophane, looking through Vaseline. It's like, what? So yeah, it just disengages, like you said, Jamie.
Yeah.
Right, you're disengaged right now. So yeah.
Right. It's
hard to talk about, honestly.
Yeah, I didn't, I obviously didn't like it, but
this is one of the first ones that we've talked about where Jamie was just like straight up, Eh.
Yeah.
Not only that is, I feel like all three of us are like, we don't know what to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like hard to pick out what the
I think
hell
we
was
got
this.
it.
I think we did.
I think we got
I think
it.
we mostly did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know one more thing. What was that treehouse thing that they all of a sudden
that had to be from the book, and I'm forgetting it.
It was like all of a sudden they had
The basement
the most
clubhouse.
awesome treehouse in a bunker or something.
Yeah.
I was like,
I don't know what that
Yeah.
was. It has to be from the book.
It's
Like,
weird
what
that it
the-
didn't come up in the
First movie.
first movie. I love the foreshadowing with the caps to protect from spiders. That was
yeah.
good. That
And then-
shows-
well, then it gives you Stanley's key.
That's
You know
Yeah.
what?
That
You know
was
what the
good.
scariest thing in the movie, and I know the same thing happened to me in the first one. To me, the most terrifying thing that happens in the movie is when they jump off the cliff into that shallow water.
Jesus.
And they didn't even check like how deep it is, and they're all standing in it, so it's not very deep. It's like terrifying to me. Like, and then doing it as adults, like as kids, I could almost see the craziness, but as adults, it just seemed like that was.
Is that the moment you were gasping at?
Yeah, I'm like the whole time that just takes me out of the movie. 'Cause
Well,
I'm
nothing's
thinking,
bad's gonna happen there. They just beat Pennywise.
wouldn't that be awesome if they all
died right there.
The water's
Yeah.
much shallower. You had a
God.
drought, and it's like 2 feet.
Pennywise drained to the quarry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No, there's just this like drone shot over where their
Right.
bodies are floating there.
Wow.
That would be the awesome version.
Jesus.
Yeah, I also wonder about how do you convey Pennywise's death better? I don't know.
I think they did a good job,
They
man.
did a good job.
They tore his heart apart.
Mike taking his heart out was nice.
It's
Yeah.
a tricky thing, especially that they killed him pretty good in the first one. And he
Yeah.
came back. That's the problem.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
I feel like this is all a symptom of adaptation and format.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like they have to follow the book. This book should not be movies.
Right.
It should be
It's tough.
television or nothing.
But there's a lot of people who felt the way you felt about it. You know?
Right, but I'm saying I loved it, but I'm also saying like it's got a ton of problems. Like how many times have I said on this show, the script does not mean I'd like or hate something.
Yeah.
Like we can talk about that shit all day.
That's
It
why I
doesn't
like
matter.
hearing your feelings about it.
Well, because it's insane to me if somebody's like, "Oh, well, the script was good, so I like the movie." Like that, you're not watching movies. Then movies are more than just text.
Yeah.
You know, like you can love a movie without loving how it's made. Sometimes, that's just me though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think you could argue, and this is why it probably has a lot of fans as well, that they probably could have adapted it more. They could have changed it more.
Taking
They
more
coulda-
risks.
They could have really broke it open and then
Mhm.
bring the
rebuilt it.
turtle in, man.
Yeah, man.
Make it weird as hell. Like like you said.
when they were doing the visions, I was like, "This is not what this is cool.
when
I want you to see what I see."
to what Jamie said before about the ending being repetitive, and this whole movie is repetitive from
Yeah.
the first movie. It's repetitive from within its own self.
Yeah,
It's repetitiveness is like the problem here.
yeah.
But like if they they got rid of all this ancients and ritual stuff and went straight with the book with the turtle, at least it would have been like we're going into this completely unknown territory where like the adults not only had to deal with their trauma, but they had to deal with like Pennywise isn't just like a demon. This is a whole nother world that we've been exposed to.
Yeah.
What the hell is going on?
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like where they'd have to deal with like just the knowledge that there is a fucking turtle. It's just like I don't know if that would have been a better movie, but that's a risk. That would be thrown for the fences.
That's a risk. Yeah.
That is a risk they did not take. I don't know if it's a better movie though.
Yeah.
Probably I might have actually loved it more just to see whatever that would have been on screen. This is done so well though. They're talking about maybe
Expanding it, right?
expanding it.
I have. And then we didn't talk about tone, but this movie has a very
Yeah.
weird tone.
It does, yeah.
But the one weirdest part was that "Just Call Me Angel."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Call
what
me
the, I
angel.
don't know what that was.
What was that? It didn't
I don't understand. Yeah, I know.
I
what you're
laughed
saying.
in the theater.
I laughed too.
because it was batshit
It's
insane.
nuts. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
And it wasn't like music Pennywise was playing or something.
No.
yeah, I was
or-
like, is he hearing that, or is that for
Yeah,
us?
what's motivating
is that
it?
non-diegetic or diegetic music? I don't know.
I was that was the weirdest thing. Like how does that make sense in that movie?
I don't know. It's like a Seth Rogen.
That was probably my favorite part of the movie. I was like, this
You're
is just
still
so weird.
talking about
And Jamie,
It woke me up. I was like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
what moment in this movie reminded me of Sam Raimi the most?
That one.
That moment. I was
Yeah.
like, why can't I was kind of like,
Yeah.
can this movie embrace this and just this be the movie? You know, like a bunch of adults having to deal with Pennywise logically would be hilarious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then it would just be Ash versus Pennywise. But still, I don't know what that
Yeah.
moment was, and that made and even the Stephen King cameo, which I liked.
Mm-hmm.
Tonally, it made it all feel so
fucking
weird.
shifted it. Yeah.
Yeah,
it was
like
so
I liked
weird.
seeing him. I was
I
like,
love seeing
so
him.
happy to see
That was
him.
probably my
I feel
second
like it was
favorite
his
part of the
longest
movie. Yeah.
cameo after Creep Show.
Right.
I mean,
You want to sign it? I didn't like the ending. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which that whole like
the meta.
the meta-ness of that, I was almost like, are they asking for our forgiveness?
I mean, he's on the studio lot. No, I felt like it
Like-
was preparing us for not being
You're not going to like the
satisfied.
ending.
or
Yeah.
blaming you for not being satisfied.
Yeah,
It's one or
like-
the other. Yeah.
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 This meta, like, it starts with him on a Warner Brothers studio lot. Like, that took me out. Is
And
that
Peter-
in the book?
No.
I
don't
think
think
he's
so.
a writer, but
I don't think he's a
remember.
I don't think he's a
He's
screenplay
on
writer.
a studio lot where they're
Which-
shooting it.
And that tonally to me felt like a parody. I was like,
Yeah.
Peter Bogdanovich comes down, he's yelling at him, he's telling him like, I didn't like the ending, you gotta change it. I'm like, what movie is
It's like
this?
Wayne's World right now.
Right.
Yeah, it was weird.
It kind of felt like
I-
like Scream or something like weird.
Yeah,
like,
Scream 3.
Is this an It parody?
Scream 3 is where they're making the movie of
And
Woodsboro,
then,
right?
and then
I think.
but
Yes.
Yes, it felt like I was
Yeah,
like, I thought Pennywise was going to show up like as an
They're making
actor
they're
with
making
a
an
clown.
It
I was
movie.
expecting that.
God, I would have loved that.
But it wouldn't make sense because he doesn't remember. But they don't
They wouldn't make
portray that.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been great. Like I can't remember the ending because I don't remember what happened.
I also
That would have been a great way to be like.
that was like the
I'm-
second thing because I watched that show on Showtime, The Affair. Okay, and that was the second time that week it kind of bugged me because it was like a screenwriter scene where we need a better ending. You need to rewrite it. Like they even bother with the writer at that point. And the writer's probably in the case of it, apparently the writer was on set, but like as if they don't know. And that afternoon they're gonna switch the whole ending and build a set or something.
Yeah.
You know, it's like what are we talking
Well,
about?
did they say they switched the ending on It?
No.
No, in the movie,
I just mean in the
the
movie.
meta scene.
Like,
Yeah.
hey, at 2:00 we're gonna shoot the ending.
It's like at 2:00.
Were there
Yeah, I
were
know,
there
it's like-
other scenes you had tonal issues with that come to mind?
I had a problem with the past, the current lives of the adults never intruding on this. Bill has
Makes
a wife.
No sense.
Bill has a wife,
By the way, in the book,
and he's
they do
flirting with Bev, and I'm like, how do I feel about this? I
Yeah,
don't
you
know what
want
the
me
fuck.
to
in
root
the
for
book
that?
they actually do show up. I think two of them
Yeah.
are actually in the tunnel, if I
So
remember,
that's,
or something. One of them might die. So in the book, it's a big part of it. Again, I would have liked that a lot more. I wish those things they set up in the beginning that we had to, and again we had to see 6 of them. You know,
Mhm.
we know they were all repetitive. It was like we're gonna shoot a slice of their
Yeah, I
life.
kind of like those though.
And they're
I know
did
why,
too.
because they reminded me like a Major League or something.
I-
Like, where are they now?
Yeah,
And it's like,
totally.
yeah.
Totally.
Get the gang back together.
I
didn't-
like that.
I didn't
Yeah.
mind those either.
Because
Because
Bill Hader's was great. Come on,
Yeah.
man.
I think
yeah.
you give patience to things at the beginning of a movie too. Like I'm giving it time. I'm like
Yeah.
I'm okay, but then by the time it got to the totems, they were still
No, wait.
flashing back.
I know what my favorite moment in this fucking movie is. It's easy.
Uh-oh.
It's that moment after Eddie gets stabbed, and Bill Hader's like, that's like that moment where he's like, all right, that's it. And then all of a sudden Pennywise hits him with the deadlights.
Yeah, and he
just goes dead. I was like,
yeah, that was awesome.
That's my favorite
It
moment
was
in
awesome.
the movie.
It was
Totally
awesome.
awesome. Because that moment was what I actually wanted from the movie. I wanted this build and this ceremonious moment where they're all like, no, fuck this.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're taking him out. And then it was like the subversion of, and he just goes dead-eyed completely.
Yeah.
Love that moment.
That
Yeah.
was a great moment.
Yeah, it's a great
Yeah.
moment. And I hope that was in the original. That was a G-Dob and not a Fook. Or it could have been. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. That's true.
I guess a mess is a good way
I
to
think
describe
Danny
it.
Trejo brought that one in. Right, he wrote that.
Right.
The machetes.
Machetes.
Yeah, guys, I think that I don't know how I don't have any like lessons on this other than
Of things
adapting
you learned.
I don't know. I think it's just adapting stuff is hard,
Yeah.
and I don't like I know we do this and everything, but like I don't know where I'm putting the blame on this one at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we talk about a lot of scripts. Like I don't really know who's at fault.
Yeah, well, nobody. I mean, it makes $500 million.
Yeah, we're a bunch of
cares?
idiots. Who cares?
Who cares about us?
Yeah. I saw it twice, so I'm part of that. Whatever.
I'm just being redundant myself at this point, but I really think breaking the structure of the novel affects, like, it makes all the decisions for you. So you either have to massively change it at that point or fix it. But breaking the novel into two, I think, is what gave us the first $500 million movie, which is enabling the second $500 million. So strategically, super smart decision.
Yeah.
I just think as a writer, if you handed it to me, I'd be like, oh no, this doesn't work if you do that. It doesn't work
Right.
anymore. Now I have to come up with something. And honestly, if you were to force me to adapt it, I probably would have come up with something entirely different for part two.
Right.
Dude, if I was adapting this, I would have. You hate this, but I would have started it with the first arrival of Pennywise.
What do you mean?
I would have showed him arriving on Earth and crashing like
you would go the whole
2 billion years
shebang.
ago. Like, well, I mean,
Mine
would
the
have ended-
Prometheus version.
Right, mine would have ended with the turtle. So if you're gonna end with that turtle, you gotta. I'd want to start with like you see the thing crashing, and then you see like
that would make
like
sense.
dinosaurs like look up.
Showing, and then you wouldn't have to tell us.
Imagine seeing like it come out of that like crater, and he like forms himself into a dinosaur. And he starts fucking with dinosaurs for a moment.
This is like the
it gets
Darren
really-
Aronofsky Fountain
Yeah,
comic.
no, it would.
That's
If
like
you're well, like what
250
Jamie's saying,
pages.
either you do the book, or you completely just do your own thing. And I think this movie is the problem is it's living in some weird in
Like
between.
you said, trying to have a cake and eat
Eat
it
it
too.
too,
Jamie,
yeah.
you said that well.
Yeah.
yeah.
And if you're not on board with the characters, you're not on board.
No.
It's
Yeah,
not-
I think
yeah.
all my problems that since you've told me how the book is, would be solved if I just read the fucking book.
Well, here's the
and you probably like the movie more.
yeah.
Once you read the
Here's
book,
the
you know?
honest
But
thing,
that's-
though. Like, I think people like me
That's not a movie,
that
though.
only
Right.
read the
Yeah.
book once as a kid, but
Same.
really loved it. I remember the kids' parts more than the adults' parts. Like the adults' parts, I'm all fuzzy about, but I more remember the kids' story. So the adult part was a bit framing in some ways. It did have the conclusion and stuff like that, and it did have a cool framing device. If I remember correctly, it ends like he's trying to write it all down before he forgets it again. So the whole thing is kind of a hazy
That's
tale
a
of
urgency
memory.
right there.
And you-
Before I forget,
Yeah,
got to get all this done before I
that's
forget.
how it ends.
That's
Like,
a great
He's typing
That's
it
the
in like
deadline.
He's got to finish it up before he forgets it.
That's a great
You know, so
deadline.
There's a whole kind
I
of
mean,
haziness
that's
to the whole
tangible
thing.
as shit.
That's tangible.
And that's
as
the
shit.
problem. See, once again, I'll stop beating I'm being repetitive too. If I understood that they
In
were-
line with the movie.
if I was able to watch the movie and understand that and believe that these were characters who didn't remember their past and were on a personal quest to discover what happened to them, and then they remember, and it's all built around each of these characters rediscovering their trauma, then it would have connected for me. But I
Dude,
never felt that. I just
this-
felt like they were like, I don't remember. What don't you remember?
Jimmy, this is a 3-hour movie about characters doing what you just said and going on vision quests, essentially.
Yeah.
And the one character out of all of them who does remember goes on his own vision quest and then tells us about it while he forces Bill to go on the same vision quest. If the whole thing is vision quests.
Yeah.
The whole movie. It's
Yeah.
like that's all it is. It's people like living inside of their mind. Is that good or bad? Well, I don't know. But that's what this movie is. It's people
Yeah,
just like
I feel like we've
experiencing
glossed
trauma.
over all the things people love about this movie,
We
like
have.
the Bill Hader story. It's beautiful.
I mean,
and
saying
all
Bill
this
Hader's
stuff,
great, that's like the sun is shining. You know, it's like, come on, we already know that.
Yeah. The handling of that character was really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really great.
But
I will say something that annoys me for the rules is that Mike says to defeat Pennywise, you have to do it in his natural form. Okay.
it's loose.
Why is his head Pennywise?
Yeah.
His head should not be a clown.
Right.
He's 2 billion years old. His head should look like whatever the hell it actually
Right.
is.
Yeah.
It wouldn't look like Pennywise because he got that from the actor.
Right. Yeah.
Like
That he possessed, yeah.
That annoyed the shit out of me. I was like, wait, he's not in his natural form.
Yeah.
Okay.
They didn't lean into it.
They should have leaned into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should have totally. And that's, I think, where it lives between that, like, showing the turtle versus not. Because the turtle one, you could have leaned in. He's just not Pennywise anymore. He's gone. It's the end of Men in Black. Edgar's suit falls off, man. Like, we're done with Edgar.
It's kind of the weird part about the book is it feels like the kid version is one. It's almost a tale, this kind of classic feel to it. And then the other half of the book feels like he dropped some serious acid and just, was riffing on it.
Which I'm fine with. I'm totally fine with it.
Probably what it is.
That's a form of entertainment unto itself. But
Make your Jodorowsky movie, man. Get nuts. Like, make this so insane.
Yeah, I mean, when you start saying the ritual and the turtle and the space thing and this, it's like, I'm just going to get crazy with this, and that's,
but
the book.
If that happens, I could jump on board with like, okay, we're just going to go nuts. Yeah. All right, I'm down. Let's get nuts.
It would be the weirdest, like, blockbuster movie of all time.
Yeah.
This is trippy, weird thing.
Right. It'd be so odd.
I feel like if Midsummer was a $500 million movie.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, I think what you just said, Jamie, is why that didn't happen.
Yeah.
They can't hinge all that money on making something that.
Had to keep it broad.
It's got to be at least a little bit like a cheeseburger.
Yes. They chose the cheeseburger
When
route.
we say cheeseburger, we mean
a blockbuster, broad audience-driven movie.
Hey, maybe the 6-hour cut, they got the turtle.
Holy shit, that'd be awesome.
I mean, if you're gonna do the weird thing, do it when everybody's already sold.
Right.
Maybe that's the future of like interactive storytelling. Isn't really that. It's like, do you want the cheeseburger or do you want to drop acid?
And then you just
do you want the
give
cheeseburger dipped in acid?
Blue pill, red pill.
Right.
And then you can just go on your own way. If you prefer the dipped in acid version, you fire
that button.
right up.
Yeah, I like the blue pill, red pill thing.
Yeah.
Which movie do you want?
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people, if they had that choice being made as consumers, would choose the weird.
The trippy, yeah.
Because they'd be like, well, I guess if I had to choose something I've never seen, I'll choose that. But if you just put it in front of them, they'd hate it.
Yeah.
They have to know that they've made the choice for it to be weird, or also just be like, this is terrible. It makes no sense. So you can't, pretty much like The Mist, you can't go, be weird with it, and then everyone gets mad. This makes no sense. It was a downer ending. I hate it. It's not a cheeseburger, so. Yeah. Did you guys learn anything? I said no. So
I learned that the way that the novel presented the story motivated all of the discovery, all of the amnesia was like you use the flashbacks to inform the amnesia aspect. Those things were very informative to me.
Yeah, I really need to reread it to make sure all that holds up. But
it's possible me and Jamie don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah. We're gonna get messages.
Yeah,
like,
I know. Yeah.
You guys fucked this up.
You idiot.
Much like people that have been away from dairy with lack of memory.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, totally.
I may be completely forgetting my dairy here. But no, that's where I come down on this. Like, I honestly think it all hinges back to the choices made through adaptation, which I think they made the right commercial choices, but presented themselves with a very difficult second movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's all Mm-hmm. But they made the right choice. At the end of the day, screenwriting is a business, filmmaking is a business, and I think they made the right choice, and I think it paid off. Is there an ideal, perfect choice out there? Maybe, but they made a good enough choice. They made their money back.
Absolutely.
They'll make another movie.
Yeah.
It's beloved by a lot of people, and the first one especially is beloved, but the second one too. The second one's beloved.
The first one's a nightmare movie.
Yeah.
It's Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
That's the first movie.
It's great.
Yeah, it's a good nightmare movie, in my opinion. But yeah,
and also the biggest horror blockbuster
of all time.
Is it? Is it
Yes.
all time? The first
the
movie?
most. I mean, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
it was
profit-wise.
It was
also the most
when
costly.
we did
I'm
our
sure, at this point,
podcast
this
and it
one.
was still making money. Yes.
Like, so it's factually
the most popular, most money.
They're gonna make a third one then.
They are totally gonna make a third.
And you know what? The reason I'm for a third one is that one scene in this movie when it shows Bill Skarsgård as the clown man. Remember when he looks down the hallway and he's like crouched over his makeup case?
Yeah.
I was like, man, he is so good.
Yeah.
Like, his performance is so good. Like,
yeah.
I would watch the prequel of it about the clown and all that.
Me
I
too.
would watch because of Bill Skarsgård. Like,
Yep.
he is so good.
Yep.
Give me a mediocre movie about that.
I'd
I'll
watch
watch
it.
I'll watch it. Yeah.
I'd watch it too.
Like, so I'm for a prequel because I think that won't mess up all this.
Yeah, the 27 years. Do a couple 27 years.
Just
Yeah.
keep going back.
Yeah.
Keep going back. You could do one, about Vikings or something.
I think they
Yeah.
should just wait 27 years and redo this movie with the original cast.
The kids as the grown-ups.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Richard Linklater, that shit.
Do every 27 years they keep remaking it with whoever played the kids in the previous version. Right. What a weird thing. Like, humanity's like, this is what we're doing. We're going to keep remaking it.
It's 27 years ago.
Yeah.
Time to make the
Here it
movie.
comes.
Time to remake it. Who's down? Right. All right. I think that's everything, guys.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks for listening to this weird episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Email us.
Yes.
Yeah,
Writers Blockbusters Podcast at gmail.com.
And find us on Twitter, and you can also tweet us, ask us anything there.
Yeah.
Just
Tell
fun.
us we fucked up the details of the novel.
If you want to yell at me or Jamie for not remembering anything, that's fine too.
Sure.
Or me for liking a movie that apparently is a mess. But it's
I'm
okay.
glad you love it. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I really love it. I'm gonna watch that 6-hour cut with Glee.
I'm looking forward to this.
Me too.
I like
Yeah.
seeing the choices. I like seeing what they do.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna do that, you would probably have a reason, right?
Right?
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, guys.
You have just listened to Writers Blockbusters, a screenwriting podcast featuring two professionals and another guy. Available only on Thundergrunt.